Hello everyone, my name is Brother Phap Hu. I am from the Upper Hamlet in Plum Village. Maybe some of you have met me in France. Currently I am the abbot of the community in Upper Hamlet. And I've been a monk for now 19 years, almost 20 years. Next year will be the anniversary 40 years of Plum Village. And we hope we'll have an opportunity to celebrate together. And I will also be celebrating 20 years of monastic life. And I've been asked by our brother as well as the community to offer and some sharing on Sangha building and what it means, how to also live as a Sangha member. The Sangha is one of the three jewels in Buddhism. And normally we think of the Buddha as the first jewel. And then the second jewel is the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the teachings that the Buddha has transmitted to us, and we can still receive today through so many different languages, as well as also many different traditions in the school of Buddhism. And then the third jewel is the Sangha. And not many Buddhist philosophers would emphasize a lot on the Sangha, but our teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, Thầy saw that the Sangha is a very important jewel. And the Sangha is the living jewel that we can still come and participate in, and we can experience the Sangha in our lifetime. The Sangha is not something that belongs 2,600 years ago to the original Buddha and original Sangha, but the Sangha, it is still present today, 2021. And what is more important is to understand that the two other jewels, the Buddha and the Dhamma, is also can still maintain in today's lifetime is thanks to the Sangha. So as a Sangha, we also have a responsibility in making sure these three jewels stay alive. And this is where our teachings of the Plum Village Dhamma doors come in. The Plum Village Dhamma door, the foundation of it is the practice of mindfulness, which is the engaged Buddhist practice. How do we apply the teachings into our everyday life? This is very important. This is what makes the Sangha jewel and the Dhamma jewel and the Buddha jewel becomes present today. So mindfulness, when we practice it, we say, I'm a mindfulness practitioner. What does that mean? Mindfulness, first of all, it is the energy of awareness. It is an energy that each and every one of us, we have inside of us. And thanks to a condition, we are allowed to understand that energy that is in us. And that energy allows us to recognize and to identify how we are doing, what is happening in the very here and now. When we become mindful of our breath, that is the object. The breath becomes an object, and we say, I practice mindful breathing in order for me to be aware of my breathing. And in that very moment, what happens is that we are directing our non-stop radio station, which is our mind, and we direct it to a focus point where we develop a concentration. We allow the mind to have a refuge. And it sounds very simple, but this is a very crucial practice in today. We know that stress and overthinking, as well as procrastination and daydreaming is a very strong habit in all of us, as well as in society. And sometimes we can lose ourselves in our mind. And so the practice of mindfulness, it is to bring the mind home and to be full inside of us. And the character in Chinese, the word mindfulness, It's the top layer is our mind, our heart. In Vietnamese, we say the mind and the heart is one. And so we want to connect to our mind and our heart more in our daily life so that we can make the right decisions, as well as we can learn to see where we are at. I know a lot of us, we ask each other, how are you today? Or we receive the question, how are you today? And automatically we will say, oh, I'm okay, I'm well. And that has also become an automatic answer. But as a monk, I took that question and I really made it a practice when somebody asked, how are you today, brother? And I would really connect to my heart and I would really check in and see how am I really doing. And that is also a practice to establish yourself and know how you are doing is very essential, because that tells yourself and tells the ones that are around you that you understand yourself a little bit more. I had a friend, he doesn't ask me, how are you doing? But he always asks me, how's your heart? And whenever he asks me, how's your heart? Before I say, I'm okay, it always makes me really connect again and really understand, yes, how am I doing today? How is my body right now? How is my mind right now? How is my state of well-being right now? Am I anxious? Am I fearful? Am I angry? Or am I neutral? Or am I very happy? And so these formations we call in Buddhism, these emotions and these conditions that manifest in us throughout the day, as a practitioner, we have an opportunity to recognize it more. That is very important, because if we can recognize what manifests inside of us, then we can start to see our own patterns. We understand what nourishes our well-being, and then what gives us anxiety, what feeds to our suffering, what feeds to our fear, what feeds to our greed, our jealousy. And if we don't have the practice, we allow all of these feelings and formations to take over, and then we will react in a way, or we will behave in a way that we may regret later. And in Buddhism, we say that our actions, it bears our signature. Our action is like our legacy. They are what is that we leave behind. So time keeps flowing, and we're part of time also. And every moment that we are living, it becomes a past. It becomes a mark that we are leaving behind. So when you have this concept and you have this understanding that you and time, if you can be present, that is when you are very alive and you want to offer what is most beautiful and what is worthy that you can reflect back and be happy about. But that doesn't mean suffering is not okay. Suffering is very part of life. We have ups and we have downs. It's so natural, it's so normal. And to practice is also to learn how to suffer. This is very important. As a practitioner, we have to learn how to suffer. One of our teacher's late aspiration was, and he's announced it a few times in Dhamma talks, and he said he really wanted to write a book, and the title of the book would be How to Suffer. Because our teacher really believes that if we know how to suffer, we will suffer much less. But it's because we don't know how to suffer, we allow suffering to take over, and we allow it to bring us to the future, bring us to the past, invite us to visit the wounds again and again without really taking care of it, transforming it, and healing it. And all of these Dharma doors in what we call engaged Buddhism, it can only be alive because there is the Sangha. And so the Buddha is not just a statue that belongs in a garden, or belongs on a shelf, or it belongs on an altar. But the Buddha, in the Zen tradition and in the Plum Village tradition, we have to understand that the Buddha is the seed of awakening that is in every one of us. And we as a Sangha member or as a practitioner, we have to light up that seed of Buddhahood in us. And so when we meditate, when we practice together as a Sangha, we practice walking or we practice sitting, and we connect to ourselves, that is you connecting to that Buddha nature in you. And we have to understand that the Buddha was also a human being. And the Buddha suffered just like us. The Buddha had so many questions just like us. The Buddha wanted to understand, why do we all suffer? And where does suffering come from? What are the roots of it? And when the Buddha discovered the path and discovered the way and was able to touch the nature of emptiness, interbeing, and be free, and we can call that enlightenment, freedom of suffering. And the Buddha then realized, now as a teacher, as somebody who has realized the path, we and him, he has a responsibility, and that is now to offer and to share that. So in Buddhism, we're a lot about sharing. So it's about communities, about practice of non-self. So the Buddha didn't become a Buddha and say, okay, I'm done, everybody, bye-bye, I don't care about you, I'm out. But the Buddha, when he was enlightened, because he understands suffering, he has so much compassion because he knows that so everybody suffer. And I want to offer a little bit of teachings in order for everyone to suffer a little bit less. And that is where his aspiration came from. And this, in our language, we call it bodhicitta. Bodhi means awakening. Chitta, it means a seed. And bodhicitta, it is an energy of awakening. And sometimes Thai, our teacher, he translated also as the mind of love. Because you have the mind of love, you want to continue to give. You want to continue to offer. You want to continue to be open. And you want to continue to develop your own compassion and understanding inside of you. So bodhicitta, the mind of love, is also a very powerful energy. It's a source of energy that can motivate us as well as allow us to fulfill our aspiration. And no matter what difficulty we meet with this energy, we can be patient and we can have openness, and then we can continue to thrive. We can continue to go forward. And as a Sangha, it's a place to also nourish and nurture these great minds of love in everyone. This mind of awakening in every one of us. A true Sangha is a refuge that allows us to become aware of ourselves and to connect to the different aspirations around us. Remember, our practice is also the practice of learning to touch know self a little bit more each day. And it sounds very grand, it's very simple. When you line up for food and you see a dish that is very delicious and it's your turn and there's still a lot of food, but you see behind you there's still many people and you want to practice no self. You don't be greedy. You take just enough for you because you want the other people to also have that. That's a very practical practice of Sangha building, practice of seeing yourself in the other person. And I practice this every day. And sometimes I go last so that I make sure everybody have enough food. And if there's nothing, I'm still happy because my Sangha is full, so I'm full. That's also the practice of interbeing, seeing yourself, the other person's well-being inside of you. And in Sangha, we can touch this. We can also nourish this. If we don't have a Sangha and we don't have the practice, when we see and we come, no food, oh my God, who's cooking today? Not enough food. and we get overwhelmed, we get so angry. And this is me, yeah? I'm talking about me, because I've lived in the Sangha for a long time. So sometimes I come and I hear in the table, the scraping of the pan. I say, oh, not enough food again today. But then with the new insight, I change my peg, I change my view, and I see, okay, the others, they have food, it's not the end of the world. I just go back to the kitchen, get some bread, get some rice cracker, or boil some spaghetti, something very simple. Okay, there you go, you have food. But the Sangha sometimes is also a real place of practice, right? Because when you live alone, you can practice by yourself, no problem. Nobody touch your seed of anger in you. But when you practice with others, somebody's action may touch something that triggers you, and that has to become your dharma. That becomes your practice. So the Sangha, as a refuge, it also allows us to keep the living dharma. So we listen to the teachings as well as we share how we practice, and we look back in our own self. How do we live our day so that we can bring the practice in a little bit more? And what are the challenges that we meet? What are our suffering of the week, of the month? And sometimes you don't even need an answer. You just share it, and you see people that really listens to you and is present for you. And that's enough. And that's the power of community, the power of Sangha. And the first thing that the Buddha did after he became enlightened was he didn't go and celebrate alone. The Buddha went and he looked for his friends. And he had 5 friends. He had 5 friends that abandoned him. Because part of the Buddha's path to becoming, to realizing the path, him and a group of 5 other friends went into the practice of aestheticism. So very hardcore practice. And they just sat in the forest, and whatever food arrived, they eat. But if there's no food, it's okay, because their idea was there's not enough time. We need to concentrate all of our energy into realizing awakening. But then one day the Buddha realized that this kind of practice is bringing harm to oneself. We're actually not taking care of our well-being, our body. And if we want spirituality and we want to have a clear mind, our body also has to be healthy. Our body and our mind support each other. So the Buddha made a decision, and he went to go and look for food. And when the Buddha made that action, his 5 friends thought that he had betrayed them, and that he has given in to desire, has given in to temptation of food. And even though the Buddha knew that they didn't understand, but the Buddha knew that this is not the way. And whatever I say will not help them right now, because I have not realized the way yet. And the Buddha had to take care of himself, and had to also find the path for himself. And this is where the teaching of the middle way comes into our school of Buddhism. The Buddha realized that to walk the path of practice, you have to always find the right balance. You cannot be too extreme on one end, and you cannot be too loose, where you will just become lazy. You allow your desire, you allow your temptation, your habits to take over. But if you're too intense, you're too extreme, then you will strain yourself, and then maybe you will also become stress, spiritual stress. And the Buddha says it's like a guitar or an instrument with a string. If you tight it too tense, it can break very easily. But if it is too loose, it will make no sound, or the right sound. But when it's perfectly tuned, it will play a beautiful sound. So the Buddha realized that spiritual practice, we have to have also the right balance. We also have to have elements of practice, element of study together, listening to the Dharma, an element of service. Being together is also a service, to communicate, to share, to help each other. That's also a service. As well as having the element of joy, having fun together, doing something that it may not look like it's the Dharma, but it's real, developing brotherhood and sisterhood in a community. And that is also very important. And the Sangha, because it's a living organism, so we also have to be mindful of how we support each other. And this, we can go very deep into this, but I also feel that every Sangha is very different, and we need to have together the eye of the Sangha. We call it the eye of the Sangha. We see what is nourishing us, what is helping us, and what are the teachings that will help us. Today, we did a day of practice with staff from the hospital, and we know what their suffering is, so we direct our teachings that it is useful and is helpful and it touches their daily suffering. So as a Sangha, if we can also recognize our members, see where we're at, so to find also the right practice and activities that nourishes our community. And our teacher, his idea of the next Buddha is that it's not one person. Thai believes that one Buddha is not enough. As we can see our world now, there's a lot of suffering from not just the pandemic, but just from discrimination, racism, hatred, also climate change, the climate disaster, the fear, the level of anxiety and fear. All of these are suffering. And do you think one person can save all of this? No, it's not possible. And so Thai, on multiple occasions, Thai said that in Thai's eye, the next Sangha, the next Buddha is a Sangha, is a community. And to wait for one Buddha, maybe it take too long. Sometimes, in the Buddhist scripture, they say that a Buddha, it only comes once every 1,000 years or something like that. And it's very poetic. It's like a very auspicious flower that only blooms once in every 1,000 years. But we cannot wait for 1,000 years. And if we understand the teaching, is that each and every one of us has Buddhahood inside of us. Each and every one of us has the seed of awakening inside of us. And we have to light this up more and more each day. Sometimes it may have to be also to help us change and examine our view of what is happiness, what is life, what is suffering. We have to have new views also to be free from it. And by ourselves, it may be very difficult. But as a collective, we can learn from each other's experience. Right? So I lived in the community for a very long time, and I had the aspiration to become a monk when I was only 13 years old. So I've lived in the Sangha since then. And I can say that everything that I have been able to do and to be accomplished in my own practice, it is all the Sangha. If I remove the Sangha from me, I'm no one. I'm not the practice. But it is all of these conditions, and it's thanks to also just learning to be open and learning to see myself in my other brothers and sisters and friends that come, that my life becomes more rich, and I allow myself to learn and expand so much, because each day is a chance to learn something. And so the Sangha is also a place of real experience. And whenever we bow to each other, when you come to Plum Village, you see we it's not natural for us to shake your hand, it's more natural for us to join our palm and to bow to you as a greeting. And our meditation when I bow to you is I would say a lotus to you, a Buddha to be. And the palm, when we join our palm in Buddhism, it represents like the lotus bud, right? Because the lotus flower has become the symbol of Buddhism. Because the teachings in the lotus flower is also the flower cannot be by itself. How beautiful and how fragrant the lotus is, it cannot grow on something very pure like marble or so. But the lotus flower, it is nourished and it develops through the mud. And the mud can be symbolized as our suffering and our difficulties in life. If we know how to take care of our mud, then it can become a nourishment for our flowers, for our awakening, for our mindfulness, our compassion, our love inside of us. So the lotus flower has many meanings, but you will also always see that the Buddha is always drawn sitting on a lotus flower. So Thai always teaches us we have to learn to sit in meditation, to learn to be still and to be able to be light, to sit on a lotus flower. And most of the time if we don't know how to sit, we're very anxious, we're very dispersed, and we move a lot and we are not settled. And Thai says it's like we're sitting on charcoal, hot charcoal. But it takes time though, right? Meditation, one thing that's very important for all of us who are also new to the practice, is you have to understand that it's a path. So there's no such thing as perfection. You cannot become still just because you want to become still. It takes training, it takes practice. You also have to have patience. It's like a new kind of muscle that you develop inside of you. Especially if we are already very established in a habit that doesn't allow us to be still, it's very difficult to settle. It's very difficult to bring the mind home to the body. But the practice is like exercising. It's like you got to do it each day, just a little bit more, and you grow and you develop in it. And you have to be patient with yourself. You know, when I first joined the community, I had the aspiration to become a monk because I felt so much love and I felt so much happiness. And I wanted to be a part of this happiness bubble, this happiness group. And I wanted to also feel like I can offer this happiness to other people. But I didn't exactly knew what I had to do as a monk. And of course, when I started to train, and the first thing we had to learn is to meditate, and we had to do sitting meditation. And for a 13-year-old boy to already wake up every day at 5 o'clock was a real challenge. And then to go into the meditation hall and to sit with a community and sit very still and learn to be with oneself is so difficult. But I didn't give up. And I didn't, at first, sometimes I saw it as torture. I saw it as something that was so painful. But it's because I didn't have the right mindset and I was trying to achieve something. But I didn't give up. And I continued to do it, and slowly, I started to touch some stillness. I started to enjoy the quiet. I was able to also recognize what is happening in me today. I was able to identify some very strong habits from the past. And all of this realization, our language, we call it the fruit of the practice. We start to taste our own meditation, and it's very delicious, and it gives you more motivation. But the first few years, first few years, I would fall asleep in every sitting meditation. And when I became a monk, I became a monk with, there were 6 of us who were very young. We were all teenagers. And we were called the 6 babies in the Sangha. And we would always sit beside each other. And the young ones, we always sit in front of the older monks. So, and the older monks would always watch us sleep. They would always watch us sleep. Bum, 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 bum. And sometimes they would tell us, oh, this week, me and this brother, we made a bet. We would count how many times that the young ones would fall asleep. But through, I'm just sharing with you my journey, right? So it's just so that you don't have to, if you fall asleep and you're not at ease with it, it's okay. It's very natural. And the more you do it and the more you develop it, then suddenly it becomes just like when you brush your teeth, you know how to brush your teeth. You put toothpaste on your toothbrush and you put it in your mouth, you know exactly what to do. And that's the power of daily meditation. If you develop it to a certain amount of capacity, wherever you go, that will become your place of sitting meditation. Whether you're sitting on a bus, commuting to work, you're sitting on a train, going to school, anywhere, that can be a moment of practice because you have developed that muscle inside of you. So we also have to have patience in us. And the Sangha is also a place that allows us to train. If I was to sit alone, I would have given up. I would have said, okay, I fall asleep way too much, or I'm so agitated, I don't enjoy sitting. And I would have just cut out sitting if it was my option. But because it was the Sangha doing it, and I want to feel a part of the Sangha body, so the Sangha would encourage me just by, I know that they are there, and I want to also just contribute my presence just by sitting there. And that is my part in offering to my community. And so sometimes the Sangha will help you also develop and grow. Even though you are weak at a certain practice, the Sangha will help you develop that, because we call that collective energy. And the power of the Sangha is also to have the collective energy so that we can rely on and that we can take refuge in. So these are some of the practices that I would like to highlight today, and I would like to present and to share and to re-encourage to all of us Sangha members and practitioners to find that right balance in our daily life. I know it's not easy. I know it's not like we're living in a temple, in a monastery where we have friends that can support us. But this is where the art of mindful living comes in. We can become creative in how we want to apply our practice in our daily life. Don't be too ambitious. Don't, because you come to Plum Village or a retreat, you enjoy 30 minutes, but at home, maybe 30 minutes is quite ambitious. Start out with 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and then also let that grow, let that become something natural in your own home. So this is also just an encouragement. I know that it's been not an easy year and a half, and we all have touched suffering, and we all have also have to deal with maybe loss, or deal with fears, deal with anxiety, and these are very real in the world. And where the meditation practice comes in is that we don't also want to become a victim of that anxiety and of that fear. So we know that it is there, and we have to allow the seed of mindfulness to also be developed, to take care of it and to transform it. And we have to highlight and bring up the other different seeds in us. And Tai used to joke with us students. He said, sometimes we are just part-time Buddhas, but our practice is to slowly become full-time Buddhas. So this is also an encouragement. We all have bodhicitta in us. We all have the seed of awakening in us, the seed of mindfulness in us. And the more we can nourish it, the more stronger it will become, and it will be more present for us. And when we need, we come to the Sangha, either in person or on Zoom like here. And there's always a connection that happens already because we share an aspiration that helps us bring us together. So I hope that my sharing has been helpful to all of you. And now I would like to save time to have questions and answer with our friends here. If you have any questions that concerns the practice or concern your understanding of the practice, or maybe even some of the teachings, this is an opportunity. And so we also don't want to go into philosophical questions because we can keep reading on Wikipedia about that. but here you have living brothers who we still nourish the practice, and we still developing our seed of Sangha life as well as our seed of awakening, and we can have some experience that we can share from the questions that you have. So please, dear Sangha.
Thank you, Taifapu. Thank you very much for your teaching. Quindi ora, just a few indication for questions. Ora per fare domande possiamo, siccome siamo tanti e non riesco a vedere tutto lo schermo, andare in basso dove c'è scritto reazioni e cliccare su alza la mano, come ho fatto io adesso. In questo modo comparirà chi vuole fare una domanda e quindi potrò attivargli l'audio e metterlo in evidenza così tutti potremo vederlo. Grazie. E approfittiamo di questo momento prezioso con i fratelli. Ecco, c'è già Sonia. Per favore, Sonia, puoi attivare il video? Se ce l'hai, e se no facciamo solo con la... Ecco, benissimo. Allora, puoi attivare l'audio adesso, grazie.
Ok.
Un attimo che ti trovo.
Ci sono?
Sì.
Ok.
Ci sei,
Ok,
ci sei.
grazie di questo. Thank you, dear brothers from Plum Village. So nice to see you. And thank you, Avalokita. I have a question. Since this winter, I had a beautiful Sangha, small Sangha, not far from the place where I live. But because of this period, we could only meet in Zoom. But anyway, they were beautiful meetings and I really enjoyed. It was my first time in life that I felt, oh, I have a Sangha. At least I have a Sangha, and I enjoy so much. But what happened that now that we are in a period that we can see each other, no one has really this feeling to meet each other and to practice together in presence. And I feel quite a discomfort inside because of this. They even suggest to stop practice for summertime. And I say, no, please, let's continue to practice at least once in a week. And I also ask to see each other, maybe for one day, but I had no answer. And I feel a little bit sad about this. For me, it's so important. I understand that they like to go out and to stay in the sun and enjoy, but I don't really know how to go on in this. Maybe you can suggest me something. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia. Yeah. Everybody heard the question in Italian. Yeah. Okay. Good question. Yes, I think it's very understandable. I think right now it's summertime, and in the winter, in the autumn, in the cold season, we had many lockdowns, and so there wasn't many options for us. And then one of the most beautiful option was connecting through the internet. And so now that there is, I don't know how it is in Italy. Is it?
It's open.
It's open, okay. Yes, so now that it's open, I think everybody has a different view of what happiness is right now. Because happiness is, I don't want to sit in front of the screen anymore. I want to be outside, enjoy. So first of all, it's just to nourish that understanding and to just to know that I guess everybody is also feeling stuck, and then suddenly when there's an openness, there's a very natural wanting to connect more to the outside world rather than the online world. But nevertheless, let's do some practice. Let's do some Sangha gathering. That is not a practice. You know, yesterday, so we here in Plum Village, since the pandemic, we have also maintained our schedule very consistent. And we felt it's so important to be able to maintain this this energy of collectiveness as well as energy of mindfulness and supporting each other. And it's I think it's the first time that we've all been together without going anywhere for more than a year and a half. And it's beautiful, it's wonderful, but also I'm starting to get tired of my brothers. I'm just joking, but there's sometimes that element that comes in. Is like, oh my god, do I have to see them again? So you have to change the activities. You don't come together and sit, or you don't come together and share. So yesterday, what Upper Hamlet and Lower Hamlet we did, all the monastic and aspirants, we all did a big picnic. We went to a very close lake nearby, and we just gathered. We did a few songs, just like how we do it before walking, to connect with each other. And then we say, okay, today's program, no meeting, no dharma. We just be together, enjoy hiking, enjoy swimming, cook good food, have tea together, and you just enjoy each other's presence. And that's exactly what we did. Anybody talk about the Dhamma? I said, not today. Today is no Dhamma day. Anybody talk about a meeting? Not today. Today is not Sangha meeting day. Today is a day to just enjoy nature outside, go for long hikes, do whatever we can that is not on the online world, but something fun. And because you're a Sangha already, that fun is the Dhamma. That fun is the practice. So what I would propose, create a picnic. Bring a picnic together. Everybody bring one dish. It's like a potluck. Everybody bring one dish. Pick a nice space. And even if 3 people show up, 3 people enjoy together. That's the spirit of Sangha. It's also, I learned this from Thai, Thai started Plum Village with just Thai and Sister Chang Kong and a few others. And people come and go throughout the year. And some people they stay for a little bit, but then they leave. But Thai and Siko stayed they were the 2 pillars. And thanks to their presence, more was able to come. And then slowly, Thai had new pillars. We had new pillar members in the Sangha. And it takes patience, it takes time. And I know, because I have helped also develop Sanghas. I have helped develop monasteries when we first opened. And sometimes, we open a new center, there's many difficulty. And some brothers and sisters, they leave. There's not happiness anymore. And they leave and they look for another path. But I'm very sad. But I cannot let that sadness overtake me. And I cannot follow them. I cannot just go, okay, if they're out, I'm out too. But I also have to, because I know the beauty of the Sangha, and I also still remain. And the more you stay and you keep developing and building, that's why we call it Sangha building. New elements will come in, and you will find new pillars, new jewels in the Sangha. And when we have an event that nobody show up, you enjoy that event. Sometimes we had time, a brother would create a session and we expect maybe 10 people, but only 4 people show up. Instead of drowning in, oh, I'm not successful, this was horrible, 4 of us, we enjoy that session together. and we let that practice and that joy radiate in us. So my encouragement, go for a picnic, do something joyful, and don't have to even call it a practice session. Let's like, we haven't seen each other, we've only seen each other online. Let's just go for a picnic. Let's enjoy a meal together. Do something very light and very joyful. Thank you.
Ora c'è Davide.
Dear brothers, thank you. It was very nice to see you. I always saw you through your videos on YouTube, so I'm very proud and honored to talk to you. Thanks also to Avalokita and Stefano and Letizia. They are fantastic in connecting to you. We are talking about Sangha. And when we talk about Sangha, I think that we're not only talking about my Sangha in Italy or whatever. I think that you are part of the Sangha to me, if I'm correct or not. The Sangha, according to me, is composed by people that basically share common ideas, common aspiration, common feelings, and of course, the Dharma that Thai gave to us. And this is the reason why I think that you are part of my Sangha as well. I would like to go on a specific point now, very specific. I know that you will find the answer anyway, but anyway, let me go through this point because I would like to understand how is your position on this. I'm talking about the virus because we are still inside of this big problem. And we found that now we have an extremely useful weapon to fight this virus. That is the vaccine. Now, other person like Dalai Lama or the Christian Pope on other religions, they took already their position about that, saying that it's good to get this vaccine. I am already vaccinated a long time ago. For the concept of the interbeing issue, that we are all connected, I think, according to me, that the people that love themselves and love the other people, that they have compassion for the other people, they would like to go through this weapon that the science gave to us. But I find a lot of people from Sangha or not from Sangha that deny this. And I feel a little bit uncomfortable with that because at this moment, the reality is that the new cases and the new death are only due to people that they didn't get the vaccine. So I would like to understand from you, what is your position in our Sangha on that? Do we have to talk openly and try to explain that it's good to do it? Or do we have to accept these people that they don't want to go ahead in this direction? Because this is a very, very important point at this stage. Because right now, as you know, in Italy, the new cases are rising up. In UK are extremely up. In France, again, you know what will happen from the 1st of August. So can I have your kind position on that? I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, David, for your question. Yes, this has been my meditation for a long time, as one of the Sangha member who help look at directions for the community. I've been contemplating a lot about this, as well as not looking at on an individual matter, but also looking at it on a collective matter. So what we did as a Sangha is we always we always bring the safety of the community first. That becomes our priority. And then the second is we look at what is the direction that our Sangha wants to go in. As we know that that the lifeline and the kind of like life energy that Plum Village we need, and if it lacks too long, we become weak, and that is the ability to connect and to offer our practice. And so with the vaccine being available, that has become a discussion in our community, and now many of us has already been vaccinated. But what is important for me as a Sangha member and as one of the brothers who help in discussing and guiding the community, what is my foundation that I always return to is that I don't want also, because of that vaccine, to bring disharmony to my Sangha. So because let's say if there is disharmony in my community and we open the door and we allow people to come in, but then we are so disruptive inside, then we don't really have anything to offer. We don't have an energy of collectiveness and energy of brotherhood and sisterhood to offer. But nevertheless, we have also taken time to talk among each other right now. Right now, the Sangha is still reflecting and looking at ways of what's the safest way to gradually reopen in order to have people come in. And we believe it's going to be a process, it's going to take stages. There's many reasons. Number one is just understanding the capacity of the community, because we have spoken, like I have shared to the brothers, dear brothers, we have a chance to all be vaccinated, but I'm not going to force you. And these are the pros, these are what we have learned, these are all the information. And I present it as facts. We look at it as fact. I'm not doing it in order to brainwash or to persuade, but I'm just doing it as because everybody has to have an observation. And I also shared this, one of the qualities of us being more vaccinated, it will look easier for us to open. That is a fact. That's something we cannot deny. But nevertheless, we still have members who have not received the vaccine. But I have asked them, if you don't receive the vaccine, but the direction of the community is to open, you have to also support that. You cannot become an obstacle for us to open. And so far, all the brothers who I've checked in with, they're all very happy. Of course, we understand the direction of the Sangha, but it's just something that maybe they're not ready yet, or for one brother, for example, his whole family has had a very bad history with vaccines. So when it came to him, he at first he was like, okay, to go as a river, maybe I do it. But then suddenly this trauma came up, and he shared with me, and I saw suffering, and I want to support him, and I don't want to make him suffer because of this vaccine right now, of this vaccine. And so, but I asked him, dear brother, but if we open and if we need you to wear a mask and these procedure, maybe you have to be in a separate room or whatever, will you be okay? And he said, of course, Thai, of course, because that is the direction of the community. So I feel like, for me, I don't have the power to to kind of say, okay, all of you follow me. If our teacher was still here, if Thai was still here, and if, let's say, Thai gives us one guidance, I think majority of us would follow, because we have a lot of trust and a lot of we know Thai has a lot of understanding and direction for the community. But now we're in a new stage. We're in a stage where we don't rely on one figure, but we all have to work together to make our direction become reality. So, and that's the spirit that I hold, and that's the spirit that I'm trying to create and make sure that everybody is heard, everybody is listened to, and hear their concern, and not to push it aside, and just be understanding. And so far that has been very beneficial for me and beneficial for the harmony of our community. And in Buddhism, in one of the misfortunes that they categorize in a Sangha is when the Sangha breaks, when the Sangha splits. That's one of the biggest misfortune, when the Sangha divides itself and there's no harmony. And this has been seen in history, even during the time that the Buddha was alive. His cousin, Devadatta, also created another Sangha, which created a huge split in the Sangha. And it brought so much confusion, it brought so much suffering, it brought so much disharmony, and people losing faith. And then the Buddha and his Sangha slowly had to rebuild all of that, and it just took so much energy. And so it has now become a lesson in the Vinaya. When we learn as fully ordained monks, we know that to be a part of the Sangha, one of the, even part of our precept is like, does our action create a split in the community? And that can be a violation of our training. Especially in the Plum Village Dharma door, where Thai emphasized our second Dharma seal is to go as a river. So I feel right now, if the brothers, if you can agree with me, is that I feel the energy collectively is that we do want to find a way to reopen when the right time comes. And we're still gathering information. There's still so many questions. Like there's still question I am asking doctors of Sanghas for input. For example, like if we're fully vaccinated, when we come together, when we come back to the Sangha, if we go from afar, do we still need to quarantine? And if we need to quarantine, how long do we need to quarantine? Is it still 2 weeks? Is it still 10 days? So I guess like this pandemic is also a living organism that we still have to keep our eyes open, our ears open, and to see what is happening, hear the information, see the data that is collected. And that's how I've been operating as a Sangha. But I don't do it alone. I have brothers and sisters who I would connect to, I would check in, we would look at it together, and then any decision we make, we always present it together to the Sangha. We have a process, we have enough time for people to digest it, to breathe with it, and then to also find the right way. And I trust the Sangha a lot. And I feel collectively we will always make the right decision for the right moment. For example, when the pandemic just happened, we were all on our way from our monastic retreat in the EIB in early March, right? Or late February. And we were all coming back to France, and we were already hearing the news of the virus spreading. And myself and Brother Phap Yung, we were supposed to go to Asia for a wake-up tour, but we saw that we have to cancel this tour because if anything happens to us, the Sangha will suffer a lot. So the first thing we did is we think about the Sangha first. We didn't think about our success of the tour or anything. And I was very happy that Brother Phap Yung and I, we shared that same mindset. And the second step we did is when we came home, we tried to understand what is happening, and we presented to the whole Dhamma teacher body. And collectively, we all shared, let us close the monastery for now. We will return back all the money to everyone who have registered. And right away, we got criticized. People were writing saying Plum Village is so fearful. You guys are afraid. It's not even happening. And within 2 weeks, France locked down. And we all looked at each other and we said, the Sangha was right, because we imagine if it becomes a real breakout in Europe and all the people that was in Plum Village, how would we organize for everybody's safety to leave. And if something happens in the Sangha, we all would feel responsible. So collective looking is very important, a very big process of our community. So we haven't yet had that discussion, and it's coming soon. We've already planned it somewhere early August. We're going to start meeting and looking together as how to reopen and when to reopen and when is the right time, what are the right structure we have to put in. And one thing that we even have to realize is that because it's almost a year and a half, we haven't had guests, like a lot of guests. So we don't want to, we have to gradually open. We don't want to just have 300 people come in and it might overwhelm all of us, for example. I think there's going to be some procedure steps that we are going to look at together. And to go as a river, you do it together, you look at it together. You might have to set up a policy for those who are vaccinated, those who are unvaccinated. But that's the direction, and to go as a river also means that everybody has to support that direction. So, and then we also know that that policy or that direction can be impermanent. We can change it, we can update it, we can make it relevant. So I know it's very like detailed like that, but I'm just showing you where we are at as a community right now, and the discussions that we've had, and kind of looking deeply that we want to do, and also to continue to not hurt anyone, because we know this time is also very sensitive. Everybody is trying their best. That's what I always say. Everybody's just trying their best. Everybody is wanting to do the best for their community as well as for their self too. Thank you, David.
Non ci sono mani alzate, there are no hands, there are no questions. Chi vuole fare una domanda, per favore alzi la mano. Intanto c'è una domanda scritta. There is a written question. I copy for you into the chat and I will read it at the same time. When in the Sangha there are angry, oppositional people who are aggregating together against the work being done, what to do? It's clear, brother?
Anna non ha tradotto.
Anna, per favore, puoi tradurre anche in italiano. Se no la leggo io. Quando nel Sangha ci sono persone arrabbiate o oppositive che si aggregano contro il lavoro che viene svolto, come fare? When in the Sangha there are people who are angry, oppositional, and aggregating together against the work being done, what to do? Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Yes, as a Sangha, we do have some principle, especially when we make a decision as a Sangha. So I would like to share with you how we make decisions in our community and what are the steps that we take, and then how to everybody feel supported and how to respect the decision. So especially if we're going to talk about a decision of one Sangha, that means we have to identify who is the Sangha, who are the members of the Sangha, and in the meeting of the Sangha, was everybody had the opportunity to be present. So normally what I would do in our community is that, let's say we have a meeting next week, I would inform all the Bhikshu brothers or all the novice brothers, we're about to have a meeting. So if you have any topic, please give it to me so I can present it and I can do my homework. Or if I have any agenda that is particular, I need the Sangha to look deeply together, I will present it first, let them think about it. And then when the meeting comes, if in our Sangha life, it's a policy, if you cannot make it, you have to ask to be represented. So for example, Brother Bao Tang cannot come, he would tell Brother Dao Fung to help represent him at the meeting. And Brother Bao Tang has to say, and I will follow the Sangha's decision. So this is the training of us Bhikshu, huh? I'll present it first, and then I'll bring it down to the layer of a lay Sangha. And as a member, we all have a chance to look at the subject together. and we all give our input. And the facilitator, a skillful facilitator, would listen and would hear from the sharing if there is support for that topic or the direction of that topic to go into. And when he hears enough and he would like to conclude it, he would say, "Dear Sangha, this is the topic, and what I hear from the community is that we would like to support this topic. Does anybody have any other input?" And if it's silent, it means they support. Then I can wrap up and I can say, "Dear Sangha, this is the decision that we would like to make." If it's a very severe subject, we would do a Sangha Karman. I would ask one time, and I would say, "This is the decision. If you are against it, please speak up." And I would breathe for 3 breaths. And if everyone is silent, then I would conclude it saying, the Sangha has agreed for this decision, and invite the bell. And in the Sangha language, we call that a Sangha Karman. It's a decision of the Sangha. It's from the collective view of the Sangha. And in the Bhikshu precept, we have 250 precepts, so it's quite a lot. But in one of our precepts, if a decision is made and we start to go against it, to break it, and even bringing in a team or something to break it, then we are violating our precept. It means we are violating the harmony of the Sangha. But if I have a different opinion and I see that decision after 1 week is not right, I would present it again. And I would ask the Sangha to look at it again, and we make another decision. So instead of I start to become angry and I start to down talk the Sangha for making the wrong decision, because we know that the Sangha is made of elements, and we're that element, and we're human, and it's okay to make a wrong decision or a decision that is not yet the brightest, not yet the best. But after 1 week or so, if we see it's not the best, we come back together, we look at that topic, and then only another Sangha Karman in our law, in our policy, only another decision can, as a Sangha, can overlap that decision. So I would encourage our friends, I don't know how lay Sanghas we meet, but to set up, to make sure everybody feels heard. If we have an agenda, if we have a topic, we make sure everybody is in the loop. They know that decision is that a meeting will happen, and we would like for everybody's input, and we listen. And if somebody who is angry, a skillful Sangha member, it doesn't even have to be the abbot, it doesn't have to be a leader, an elder brother, but if you hear someone who is not happy with it, you can come and listen and say, "Hey, why are you reacting like that? Are you not happy? Or were you not part of the Sangha meeting? Why didn't you share? Why didn't you offer your input?" For example. And then we would, instead of blaming or saying that you can't think like this because it is wrong, because we already made a decision. But sometimes what I have learned as an abbot is that I don't look for perfection. Actually, sometimes it's good to know that there are other brothers who have a different opinion, and it helps me to reflect and to reconsider sometimes, because sometimes out of my enthusiasm I can make a decision based on what I like, but it might not be the clearest thing. And so sometimes you need a little bit of noise, what we call it, like in a speaker. There's no speaker that is super clear. There's a little bit of noise, and that noise can help us retune to find the right balance. So in principle, dear Sangha, if we're not happy with a Sangha decision, yes, let us not build and divide the Sangha, but find a way to share our opinion, to share our view, what we have seen that may not be working, may not be helpful. I have had Sangha members in my Sangha in Upper Hamlet who were like troublemakers, a little bit of troublemakers. And sometimes they would say things or agitate or push the buttons in brothers. And skillfully, if it's not me, I would ask somebody who's very close to him or her and ask him or her to share, like, do you know your behavior like that is really disturbing the collective energy? Like, why are you behaving like that? Do you need to be listened to? And sometimes, a lot of the times, it just comes from suffering. It comes from maybe they are not feeling heard, they're not feeling love. And I'm sorry to say this sometimes, because we all have a child within, and sometimes we want to be a little kid. We need a little attention, and we want to do something to get people's attention. And I've seen this in my monastic community. I've seen my brothers behave in such a way, and normally it just takes a little bit of deep listening, of being together, seeing what is how can I support you, why are you agitated. And so if there are Sangha members who are unhappy, sometimes we need to be one or two brothers and come to listen to them, ask them why. And sometimes just asking them why they share, we find a way out. There was a time in our Sangha we had to develop a deep listening council. So when a member becomes a real disturbance for the Sangha, and coming on an individual basis as a friend, that it doesn't work anymore, then this deep listening council represents the Sangha and comes to him or her and listen and ask, why are you suffering? How can I help? What would you like the Sangha to know? And when it comes from this deep listening council, it represents the whole community. So there's a little bit of a representation with a little bit of authority, but we're not there to correct him or her, but we're just there to listen and then to present it back to the Sangha. So these are some of the steps that we have taken in our Sangha life in Plum Village that we had to develop. Sometimes when there are situations where it develops that needs special care, special attention. So being part of the Sangha, we cannot avoid these, but please always think of the harmony. Always think of the greater good of the group and of the refuge. Because if it becomes broken, then not only people don't get a refuge, but you don't get a refuge. And that's what I always remind myself as well as remind others. Yeah. And in the meeting, dear Sangha, if we ever come to a place where we argue, we stop the meeting right away. We don't meet anymore, because with this energy, it won't contribute to anything. And there's a very beautiful text that we usually read before we meet. Is that it goes something like this: today we meet, and we know that each and every one is part of the Sangha. So all of our views is to offer to the view of the Sangha. And if any of one of us say something that disrupt the harmony, we would begin anew right away to bring back harmony. And it has happened in my meetings. And there was only one time when two brothers got really loud, got really personal. And one of our elder brothers said, okay, dear Bhikshu's brothers, this energy is the energy of a little bit of aggression. So we need to stop right now. And we will come back tomorrow, or we will come back in a few days, or we come back next week. But with this energy, it's not going to help at all. And it was the right thing to do, because right away, all of us as a member, we all felt agitated. We all felt that this is not the harmony we want. This is not the energy that we want to contribute. So sometimes if something doesn't go well, it's okay to also put a stop to it, let it settle, and then we begin anew, we redo it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you, dear Sangha.
Grazie Taifapu. C'è ancora tempo per 1 o 2 domande, quindi facciamoci avanti. Grazie.
It's amazing. There's no question. Maybe we can end now.
Maybe I can share a little bit.
Okay.
So on the Sangha building, I think Thai has shared how he built the monastic community, and he also gives some proposal for the lay community. Maybe you would like to apply that way also. And that has been written in the book Joyfully Together. And I think that the Sangha builder, those who build the Sangha, you may like to take a time to read that book, those who know English language, and then probably see what point that is very important that you may like to slowly translate it into Italian and share with your own Sangha. And this can be applied for the OI member Sangha and also for the local Sangha. And please check in that book. And because that book is quite complete, what our brother has shared mostly are all available in that book. And even there are 7 ways how to solve a dispute in the community. So that is something that we can take it as a meditation. It is not something that is like, it is not like a recipe of a cake. You just follow and it will happen. So it needs some practice and needs some deep looking also.
Avalokita just said that book has already been translated.
Okay, great.
So the book is Joyfully Together, huh?
Yeah, I don't know in Italian what is the
Con
title.
gioia. Insieme con gioia. È già stato tradotto, sì, a cura dell'associazione Essere Pace.
Yeah.
So please do some study on that and practice it. It is not something that you just can follow. You have to practice it. Yeah.
There is a written question. Maybe you can read it too. I will. That one. Is there a calendar or a series of practice that you recommend to build a Sangha that are foundational? Thanks for the suggestion of the books.
Thank
Perhaps
you.
that answered this question. Also, do you have trainings for Sangha facilitators?
Yes. Dear Sangha, I would like to start first with the training for facilitators. It's become more in our consciousness in the Sangha body that we would like to create more opportunities for smaller groups of Sanghas to come to Plum Village outside of like Italian retreat or outside of summer retreat or outside of 21-day retreat, where it can really be you are in the community, you live and you join our schedule, but then we have special activities where we can really focus on like facilitation, guidance, like whatever that the Sangha, your Sangha would like to develop. And I think in the last 2 years, we started this with a few Sangha. We had Sanghas from France, Marseille.
Yeah, from different.
We had different local Sanghas in France that would come. Some of them can stay for 1 week, some just for the weekend. But we host them, and we really, we have like just 3 brothers or so, and we just stay with you for 3 days where we can really develop internal building, right? And you can ask us a question, and we can, because in a more general retreat, we have to give the teachings as well as the guidance for the more general and how everyone can practice individually. Especially everyone will go back home, and not everybody has the condition of a Sangha. So this is something that we have already started, and maybe I'm just planting a seed here. So maybe one day, if there's an Italian Sangha that would like to come, pick a low season in Plum Village, and you get a lot of our attention where we can be there with you. We can go through practices. And we did this, and we started to do this also for Wake Up ambassadors. Just the ambassador of Wake Up, they all come. We focus on some of the themes that they would like to grow in, and these, it's not only just for training, but what I see is when a Sangha comes together like this, you all stay in one hamlet, so you don't split between Lower Hamlet, New Hamlet, Upper Hamlet, but you stay together. And what I also like, and I see that develops, is another chance for the Sangha members to build during your time in Plum Village. So it's very beautiful, and it becomes very more organic because you are with us. So that's for facilitating. And on books, for general practice, the book Happiness, in English is called Happiness. It has the fundamental practice Dhamma doors in there. Well, when I first became a Dhamma teacher, I had to learn to offer and to teach. I would study happiness because it teaches you how to guide, beginning anew, guide tea meditation, how to explain walking, how to explain sitting, and then how would I explain it, and not following the book word per word. So that was a very essential book for me, just on a personal note. And then for other, so that's for Sangha Foundation, because those in that book, it has key practices of the Plum Village Dhamma door. And then on the teaching books, for the teachings, we have many actually, but you can never go wrong with the 16 exercises of mindful breathing, the 4 establishment of mindfulness, as well as understanding the mind of love, which is like Buddhist Thay's insight into, and Thay's teaching on the mind.
The heart of the Buddha teaching.
Yes, and another core that every monk we have to study is the heart of the Buddha's teaching, because in there it has the essential core teachings of Plum Village, and it's also the core teachings of Buddhism in the heart of the Buddha's teaching.
Grazie.
There is another written question. Yes. What to do when someone comes to the Sangha for 1 or 2 times and then disappear without saying anything? And yes, that's the question. Thank you.
You say hello and then you say goodbye. You know how many people has come through Plum Village and we have never seen again? It's okay. Yeah.
There is another, thank you, brother. There is another question.
I'm sorry, it's really short, but one thing I can add is not everybody likes the Plum Village teaching, and it's okay. It's also it's like everybody has a different teacup that they like to drink, and if those who come and enjoy Plum Village, then wonderful, we support. But if somebody comes and they don't like the Plum Village practice and they go to another practice, that's totally fine also. So just to be open-minded and don't become critical. Say, oh, why he came and he doesn't enjoy it? What is wrong with us? No, it's not like that. It's everybody has a different taste. Everybody has a different energy that they can connect to, and maybe ours, it doesn't work. So, and that's okay. Thank you.
There is a connected question, but you already answered, I guess, because it's how to say goodbye.
No coming, no going, no after. You know, it's part of the Sangha is also seeing impermanence, seeing brothers and sisters also go. One of my early suffering was when a monk or a nun would disrobe, would leave the monastic order. And for one brother, I cried a lot. I was so sad. And because he was one of my mentors, he was one of my elder brothers who I wanted to become like. And when he disrobed, it broke my heart, you know. But the understanding that I have matured into and I have grown into is that nothing is lost. Even one day in Plum Village, they have been able to touch something. And for somebody who spends 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, or 3 months, 6 months, they have gained something very beautiful. And it can be brotherhood, it can be sisterhood, it can be just a simple joy of having others around them, or the practice. So I know that wherever they go, they will bring this with them. You cannot completely cut us off. You cannot completely say that we're not a part of you anymore. And it's also, I have connected again with many brothers and sisters who have left the Sangha, who have disrobed, and then they come back. And in all of the sharings, they said there were so many moments that they recognize that Plum Village has helped them overcome something in life. And they have also seen that even though they have disrobed, it's still very clear that there is still an element, root of Plum Village still in them. So that's also an insight that I have gained, and it has really helped me when somebody leaves the Sangha. Even though they leave, but I can still see their marks in our community, as well as I know wherever they go, there's still a little bit of us with them. And we also just have to understand that at some stage, for some friends, their path would take them down another route, would take them down another route. And that is equally fine. That is their journey that they have to go on. That's maybe their life journey or their spiritual journey that they need a change or so. So also the practice of non-attachment. Yeah. Thank you.